Hello everyone, welcome back to Chinspinchats. This is episode 5. Today I'm joined by my good friend Scott Mears, the Derg. How you doing, Scott, mate?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having us, Carl. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I appreciate you coming on. So basically, Scott, everyone who's already aware of who you are knows what you're about, but for anyone who doesn't, what can I see it that explains something that you do?
Well, I raced mountain bikes for a lot of years, professional downhill. Then that's led on to different things like the bikes. I've always wanted a life relating to bikes. It's kind of led on to that in a different sense to what I would have liked it to, but it's still been good, and I've got something from that. So it's quite a lot to talk about how it got to that and how it affects stuff. And it's I do get up every day and go to work and do something what I want to do. So that does help.
Aye, it's obviously, like you've got your shop, you've got Cyclefix in Burley, really successful shop. As you see, I've been there plenty of times myself. I know how well run it is and stuff like that. Basically, how did you end up basically creating the Cyclefix, the shop? How did you end up on that path of having your own business in the shop?
Well, I started out working life really as a joiner. Like I left school, got a joinery apprenticeship with the council. I spent a few years, I think it was 6 years doing that. Then I was racing throughout that time, and it was quite hard. I was racing up against people who were riding the bike for a living. It's hard. It's a bit like a lot of other sports where there's a lot of money in the families, and that helps. Big sports that can do what they want. But then that led to, I went and done a bit of bespoke joinery for a while, cabinet maintenance stuff. I was working away, bits and pieces doing that. I come back and it wasn't for me. I wanted to do my own thing, and I wanted my own time. And I went over Bike Sport in Newcastle one day and spoke to Gareth. I says, can I just have like a Saturday job here? Bit stability, doing some of that. And he went, oh, he says, you do the mountain bikes and stuff, don't you? I says, yeah. So he says, I know a guy, Jonathan, who's wanting to start a little shop for a while. So next day I goes over and sees him. Jonathan Harris, known as Jick. Pretty much I was knocking walls down for him the next day in a little unit, similar to this, not too big from this. And I was also working in his MOT garage, doing help towards the cars, service and stuff while the business was building. That really helped a lot because I didn't really need to take any money from the shop. Built that up from there. I almost had a customer base already because of how well I was known through the years of racing. And then that just went from there. And then it's still, I think it's, if you enjoy something, you've got a passion for something, it's hard. 9 to 5, you've got to kind of treat it like a job. And you don't let sort of passion overtake. Like I'd love to fill the shop with all Santa Cruzes and posh this and posh that, but doesn't really make you the money. You've kind of still got to have that balance.
The kind of work mentality.
Yeah. And it's the same as anything, I think, depending on what you're interested in. If you've got that, the sort of fight and the work in you, you'll make happen whatever's going to happen in front of you. It does help if an opportunity comes up. Of course it does, which it did with me and Jonathan and his kids and stuff. It's that bloke's a tough working lad, and I learned a lot from him. Same with my granddad, same with my dad, I learned a lot. It was always about work first.
Ethics,
Maybe I would have went further in the mountain biking side of things if I didn't kind of do that. But to me, a job's most important. Then you do everything else. I didn't have the gift of lots of money from parents and stuff like this, and
big funding.
But I'm not bothered. They taught me a lot of lessons. I'm still here now. I spend a lot of time with people who are riding a bike for a living, and I don't feel like I'm any worse off or not as happy as them. I'm as happy, if not happier. In my own shit, and it goes that way. So similar to you've done a similar thing where people don't realise what you've done. They just see this end product. Fuck me, he's got that stuff, he's got this, he's got that, and like
it must be easy kind of.
I quit a job getting $3,000 a month from the council, which everyone's seen as mental, to getting less than 400 quid a month for 2-3 years to commit to that. And with the racing as well, your relationships, it's hard, friends, family, everything you do from fucking breakfast in the morning to going to bed at night relates to your performance.
Definitely.
You've done the same thing, similar thing for all them years.
But that's it, mate. Like obviously for me, it was when I first started out. Obviously, I boxed all the way through school and stuff like that, and then getting little bits of odd jobs here and there. And then I was working at Nissan for a bit when I first started MMA, and I knew it was something I wanted to just dive into full time. And it was something I really wanted to do. And it was weird. I kind of went through like a mad transition with it all. It was like, I just loved it. I just wanted to be there the whole time, just dedicated myself the whole time. I wasn't working. I was just training all the time, but I had a little bit of, it wasn't like a job or anything like that, but I was caring for my mum. So I had a little bit of carer's allowance for a while. So that kind of kept us basically not afloat, but give us a little bit of something to sort of do something, you know what I mean? And then it was weird, like, as you say, when you take that kind of mentality towards, like, obviously you change your attitude towards it, you know, like, I thought, obviously, boxing all the way through semi-pro MMA, and then it became, I turned pro. I was pro at 20. And for me, it became my job, and that's when I kind of switched from like the hobbyist to being like, right, this is I need to fully, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it fully. And that, at first, being like, obviously the age I was and stuff like that, it made us kind of like change my opinion of it. I kind of lost that love for it, and it became like a chore, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why I went pro. I had my first fight, and then I basically essentially quit for a while, because it just changed the way I felt about it. It wasn't like I'm going to the gym with the lads, I'm going to go and have fun with sparring and this and that, and I'm having a fight. Oh, it's all fun and I love it. And then for me, it had become like, you need to be there. Yeah. You're not training this day thing, and that, and it kind of warped my mind a bit. And then it was like, obviously I'd boxed for that many years, and then going into that, it was like, it basically, I felt like I just needed me on time, and then I took me on time, and that's what kind of made us realize how much I actually did want to do it, and then got it back. So that's a side that people didn't see. I mean, the sacrifices that you must have obviously had to do to have a career as long as you have in racing, but then obviously getting your own shop, you know, it's a massive part of it. The sacrifice is obviously a huge thing that people don't see, you know what I mean? There's a saying, it's something like people don't see in the shadows, they only see what goes on in the light, you know, and it's like they didn't realize what goes into it. I mean, like, you've obviously, as you see in the cell, time away from family, losing out on like money essentially to try and get your shop off the ground and stuff like that. How did you first of all, how did you get into bikes essentially, you know, from a young age? Like, what was it that led you onto the path of starting like riding?
It was always, as a kid, ride bikes, pedal bikes, whatever. Done a bit of BMX. There was a local skate park just got built where I lived in the Leam, like just down the bottom, and met a few people there. And one of the guys, Mick Stevenson, he builds all the tracks at Chopple and stuff. Yep. So we went up there, started doing a bit digging and building with him, bits and pieces. They had an event there, bit of a race. Yep. Done the race. That led on to a race at Hamsley. That was it, basically. Then I was away. So, but even back then, like, it was similar. That was, I think I'd done my first national when I was 15, like your first British race. Started, I think I'd done a race when I was 14 at Hamsley. And similar crack, like I'll see the kids who come to the shop and stuff these days, like, oh yeah, they'll want like a couple of grand bike, which is normal money now. Oh, well, you got a few paper rounds and stuff like that, and they're like, they don't even know what a paper round is. And it's like, friggin' hell, I had three then, and every money. And it might sound a bit daft, but my ma will probably kick off with us saying this, but I remember I used to go out with the lads on a Friday. I had a good work like balance of on my bike, not run with the lads and the lasses on a weekend, on a Friday night after school or whatever. And I got absolutely mortal when I was about 11-year-old. And my ma was like, look, I don't mind buying you a little bit of the drink or something if that's all you'll drink. And she knew I was trustworthy. I was like, right, that's fine. Buys a bottle of white lightning or whatever on a Friday night. This was, I was like 14, 15. And I started, I was like still on my BMX or whatever. And I started selling that. Now buys the bottle of cider. I would sell it to one of my mates for 6, 7 quid, something like that. Save that money, buy more bike parts, buy loads of stuff. And it was funny. And it was good. Like, it's hard because it's hard to teach your kids lessons and stuff like that, isn't it? And
definitely.
What's the right and wrong. But like back at that race, I'd done that. And then just before I'd done a race at Fort William, that was when I first met Danny. Obviously I worked with Danny the last couple of years. We'll get on that later, but I was up at Hampshire, and I always remember we pushed up like this, like the tabletop on the downhill track, bit of a notorious, well-known part. And we pushed in a little bit above, and he was like, oh, we'll just go from here. I was like, normies go a bit higher up. Now we'll go from here. Went down, I just started using like the clip-in pedals then. Straight over the bars, snapped both my wrists. That was like the first time I met Daddy. Also a lad, Aaron Foster, he was with us then. His dad, Steve, top bloke, he took us to loads of races and stuff at the start of my career, and Joe, who works with us now, was actually there as well.
Right.
I mean, that was like, what's that, 16, 17 years ago. So it's funny how things turn out. And that was when my mum knew as well, because I got back from the hospital. She was like, I knew then you were into it because you were wanting to get on your bike the next day or something. Normally an injury, big injury like that tells you,
would deter someone,
I'm going to do it, or this isn't for me. So from then on, I've had a few now. But
well, that was the next thing I was going to get onto. I was going to say, so like obviously people seeing like obviously success in wanting a part of it, you know, like people see how well you've done, and as like a lot of people's messaged me since I put this on about you doing it, they've watched you on YouTube and they're like, fucking hell, he's legit, you know what I mean? And it's like people see that and don't realize like what it actually takes to do that. And it's not even just like the time putting into it and the effort and the confidence and just all of that side of it. It's more so like how you've the strain it's put on your body. Like for a lot of people I don't know, you've had some like massively serious injuries from it, you know what I mean? And could you just explain a little bit about some of the injuries you've had from it? I mean, I know you've had some massive ones, like obviously in Canada and in other places. I mean, I can't remember where the other place you said it was. I mean, obviously there's loads of them, you know what I mean? Blackpool another one.
That was motocross in that one. So that was, I broke my collar. We're going to a British downhill race for the weekend, and a few of the mountain bikers had organised to go on the Thursday to Preston Docks, kind of on the way down there. We all ride motocross, then it was the last race of the season. Sure enough, I just high-sided the berm, snapped my collarbone. And I remember I was like, I'm not going to, I was in my camp van, I'm not going to, that was like a £2,000 transit, by the way, nothing special. And I was like, I'm not going to Blackpool Hospital. I've got like a 10 grand downhill bike in here, motocross bike, all my kit. So I was like, fuck it, I'm driving home. And my mate was like, we'll just duct tape your arm up, duct tape my arm in a transit. It was my left arm, so I'm changing gears my right. And I was like I've said before, I remember I pulled up, I took a wrong turn from Preston, pulled up on Blackpool seafront. And I was like, shit, I've come the wrong way. Just in pain. I just had to sit there for 5 minutes. I wasn't upset, crying, just tears running down my eyes, and then I just snapped out of it and had to drive home. I was like, fucking hell. So that was a funny one. But other injuries, I mean, I've had 16 operations. It's not too bad. The things I've sort of broken hurt have led to different areas of my body hurting. So the main one, I snapped my femur in 3 places, compartment syndrome in my leg, same injury, I snapped my arm in half. That was compound, that come out of the skin. That's led to sore shoulder and sore hip, which is strange because they weren't affected in the crash. Whether they're limping for so many months or overcompensating has done that.
Things, that's exactly, you start overcompensating and it pulls other things out that you, if you injure certain parts, it can affect somewhere completely different. My shoulder was like that before and it ended up hurting all down my back and stuff like that.
It's weird how they do that. And I think, well, the first time I broke anything was it was on a climbing frame just next to Nissan. There's our pub called the Three Horseshoes, and I jumped out, snapped my wrist there. And since then, I've broke my right wrist 5 times, my left wrist 3 times, kneecaps, toes, thumbs, fingers. I am a bit stupid as well. I do throw myself into scenarios where something daft's probably going to happen. Probably one of the funniest ones was when we're out in Newcastle with a few mates, and he was like, "Oh, see how hard you can hit this wooden light post thing." And before he'd even finished speaking, I punched it as hard as I possibly could, and it was just a solid steel post. And I just snapped both the metal corners of my hand. Daft stuff that I had to do and think a lot.
I did the exact same thing, mate. For anyone who hasn't seen my hand, I've got a massive scar across my knuckles, and I was in Bud Bigelow's. There used to be 5 quid entry and drink as much as you want. There was a punch machine there. And I remember I was fucking smacking it, and every time putting it in and trying to beat it, and I fucking just, don't know why, absolute chip shot, just fucking wildly, just straight through, just punched the back of the thing, just knuckle out my hand, just absolutely sad. What incent I couldn't give us now because I was pissed as a fart, just fucking stitched it up, and it's never been the same since. You know what I mean? Just fucking ridiculous.
That's
unnecessary injury.
It's funny. I think I've done my knuckle 3 times in. That was one of them. I think once I punched someone in the elbow when I was training, and once I punched a bracket on a punch bag as well. I think it was that, but that hurt a lot. I mean, even all the injuries I've had, probably the collarbone was the hardest to recover from, even though that's probably the least important or least worst one. It just seemed to take so long.
Well, I done mine before. I was skateboarding, we've got a spot in the moon, our DIY thing. Red Bull give us I mean, it's getting demolished now. I don't know if you've seen any of the posts about it, but Red Bull give us loads of cement. But basically, we've been building that for years anyway, and I fucking come off my skateboard there, put a bad, and I give myself joint separation in my shoulder. So the bones that's supposed to be nearly touching has got a big gap in now, and it's a common injury with rugby players apparently, and it's never going to be the same. And that's one that I'll have issues with for the rest of my life. Even now, if I sleep on it, yours will be the same. I wake up and it's just a dull pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
funny, like you say, it's hard to. I definitely feel the effects now. Like if I've trained and stuff, when I'm running mainly, my hip and stuff's real bad from that. And it's, I don't know, you've got to expect it with this type. And to be honest, I wouldn't change any of it. Like even when I smashed my femur and my arm, and that was in Canada. It was with a big group of lads. Everyone helped us so much. Binny, my mate Andy, everyone who was there helped us absolutely loads with that. Calmed my mum down and stuff. And it's weird because it was like the middle of the night when by the time I was at hospital and stuff. So I would message my mum at the end of every day, just mint day to day, wicked. We're going out having a few beers, and she didn't get a message from us, and she thought, this is strange. So someone had rang, Danny must have rang his mum. He'll just ring people at 3 a.m. because he's just ridiculous. And she rang my mum at like 7 on the Monday morning before mum knew anything. Have you spoke to anybody? And my mum was like, why? And she had a feeling already that something wasn't right. Oh, well, Scott. And she was like, Sue, like, what? Like, she thought I was dead, the way Sue was talking. She's like, Sue, just like, fucking tell us, like, mad to get angry. And she's like, oh, well, he's in hospital. He's had a serious crash. She was like, fucking hell, Sue, I thought, like, so like, and I remember then, like, we've spoke about this before. I remember I was in horrific pain that day. And like, at that point for about a day, I was like, I'm going home. I'm selling everything. I'm done with this. I'm changing everything. And then the next day, you kind of forget about the pain and being like, I like to be alone. Then, so it's like we spoke about this. Like, I was like, I'll fly over, and I was like, if you fly over here, like, I'll push you out of the hospital myself. I just want to sit, deal with me fucking own scenario. Yeah. And that's the best way I do it.
I'm exactly the same.
Even like hungover or cold or like people, give us a cuddle, give us. And I'm like, fucking leaves alone. I'm just on my own. I'm happy on my own. That was like I had appendicitis as well. I mean, this is not related to this, but it was Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day. I was in hospital with an appendicitis, and you know, it was the most peaceful Christmas ever. I love Christmas with family and stuff, but they let us out for like 4 hours on Christmas Day. I went back there and I was just ready to just relax in my room. And
is that when you had the catheter, or was that the Canada?
That was Canada. So that was, I remember, so I snapped my arm and leg, and I remember rolling over, saying to the lads, ring an ambulance, I'm fucked. Obviously, the bone was out my arm, so they could see. So I remember I was sort of settled. They were like, give us a drink. I'm having a drink in like 45 minutes time to come. And I remember thinking, and if I'm moving a millimetre, the pain in my leg's horrific. And I'm moving my arm around, and I'm saying, Andy, my arm's okay. He's going, just keep your arm still because it's squirting blood out and it's the bone's fucking moving all over. And I'm like, but my leg, mate, is bad. So I say, cut everything off us now before they even get here. I'm ready for it. And that the thought of them lifting us in that ambulance, I was just like, just do it. No matter how much I'm screaming, just get us in there.
The plaster off, fucking get us in quick as possible.
Like, I was kind of on my side, and it just felt like my foot was touching my shoulder. And my leg was back to front 3 times. And when the lifters in that ambulance, man, it's weird there because they can't give you painkillers at the site. They just give you gas. So with the gas, you still feel the pain, but it's like we had delayed pain.
It's like you kind of not with it. I mean, I've had gas in there before. It's
like you're watching yourself from above. You feel something happen.
It's a bit like being on mushrooms. Essentially, it's weird.
I've never done that myself, but like it was so strange. Like,
it's mad.
It was so like. Biddy was in the front of the ambulance, and it was like a 25-minute fire road. Like it was like a fucking motocross track. And he said he could just remember he'd hit a little bump, and he'd just be like 10 seconds, 9 seconds. He hit it. Nah, just start screaming in the back. Then I get to the first hospital. It was called Seychelles. So it was on Vancouver Island, which is like a small island. And you have to get a little ferry across the mainland Vancouver. Checked us in there, gives a full body x-ray. They actually found 2 broken bones in my neck as well, which was from a crash I'd done 2 weeks previous. I crashed at the last British race. I had one of my best results. I was 6th. But in practice on the Saturday, I was doing this gap between 2 berms. Not a lot of people are doing it. And I went over the bars, landed on my head, knocked myself for 6 a bit. Remember the next day, my neck was so stiff. They were like, oh, when did you recently have neck surgery after this? And I'm like, what are you on about? Like, oh, you've still got 2 fractured bones in your neck. It's like, oh, that's news to me. And then like, this is like, I'm stirring and I'm all over the place. And then I just remember how like half waking up and the wife's like putting the catheter in. Don't know whether like, obviously they're like 16 inches long or whatever. And the whole point is they go past like, there's a valve in your bladder what tells your body when you need a piss or not. It goes past that. So you're just like constantly pissing. And I felt every millimeter of that 16 inches. I couldn't feel a lot much because I was off my nut at this point. Fucking hell, that was bad. And then from like there on, I got shipped to the next hospital. Between like, I think from getting to the first hospital was 1 in the afternoon. I got just before I went to the theatre was 1 at night, 1 a.m. So it was 12 hours. I remember like 3 to 4 minutes of that period. And then I woke up the next day. It was a 6-hour operation. My leg was still wide open. They had to leave it open to let the pressure and stuff come out. And that was like with a catheter thing, like every time you move it, like flips over inside your bladder. Fucking hell, that's awful. And like all the lads come and see us, Danny and stuff, and Danny doesn't deal with stuff like this well. And I was like talking to them like this, and then I would just start drooling and fall asleep and then continue the conversation. And they were like, oh, they still got 7 days riding in Whistler. And I'm like, lads, different comments, like fair play. You're going to
fucking wipe yourselves out and you've still got races to be doing.
Like they rented a car, they come and see us every couple of days. It was fucking mint. Like I remember the biggest sort of, I've never enjoyed fresh air in my life so much. So they give us a wheelchair, which I wasn't really meant to use, and it had a flat tire. So I was in a store cupboard trying to look for a fucking pump. And one of the wives was like, what you doing? That's supposed to be out your room. So anyways, like I went back and I was like, fucking, I'm going back out again. It was like a few floors up in the Vancouver hospital. And I seen people going out this electric door, pressing a button, going out the electric door, and it was a smoking area. I was like, right, I'm gone out. So I would press the button, fucking wheel out, and the doors would shut. Mate, I was there 2 hours trying to get out this door. Nobody was there. Finally got out, and I literally just started screaming, crying. As soon as I felt the oxygen in the air, it was so nice, the fresh air. It was fucking weird. I've never enjoyed something like that so much. It was just another experience. And I lost, like obviously, I lost 2.5 stone in 7 days. I was eating stuff, but like it wasn't. It must just be.
It's not the same, is it? And you're not moving as well. That's what people didn't see. I mean, day to day, walking about like you're an active person, so like your body's already burning so much, and then when you stop, it's like with injuries and stuff like that. Like people think, oh, you're not thinking you eat and you're gonna get fat, but you cannot really eat the same anyway because your body's not as hungry as it would be anyway. And then obviously you're not burning anything because you're not moving, so it's your body just fucking basically eats itself essentially. But
it was so strange. That was like the eating thing as well. And I remember it got about a third day, and I hadn't had a shit for 3 days, this part was getting way worse. And I remember they were giving us these pills, like the tiniest bit of pill. I don't know what the fuck it was. And one night I was lay there, and if you've ever seen Friday the 13th, where the fucking person gets eaten by the bed sheets, I was lay there and the bed was eating us. The fucking clocks in front of us ticking like this. And I'm just like, what the fuck have they got me on here? Next day I was like, no more painkillers. She was like, really? I was like, honestly, it's awful. And it got to the Sunday, so it's a full week. Hadn't had a shit.
Fucking hell.
They'd give us suppositories, laxatives, everything. And she went, was one more thing. Went and tried. It was like this injection thing. I was like, you're going to have to cut us open tonight. It felt like you were just filling me pelvis with concrete. Finally went to the toilet, man. It was like someone had pulled us inside out.
Like horror movie.
Fucking hell, it was awful. But it's all part of the experience.
Part of it, I mean, obviously that's how I first got introduced to you, through bikes. Like obviously, bikes is something that I'd always wanted to do. And it was just like from being a young kid, that bits of shitty pedal bikes and that. We'd buy bikes off people for £3 would have been pinched from fucking X, Y, Z. You just get what you're getting. I had daft BMXs and shit like that. I always remember once that me and Ryan Hellens had this GT. It was called the GT Vertigo, this BMX, and I fucking loved it. And I got all these pallets. And where my dad lives, it's like a long street, just a bank. And at the very bottom of the bank, it's like this open bit where all the cars park. And I had this fucking jump out of these pallets. Didn't know what I thought was going to happen. Fucking just tanked it. Just the same way I am out. If I get on a bike, I get on a motorbike.
Committed.
I'm just going to fucking try and send it. I might not be fucking good, but I'm going to fucking give it a crack. And I remember fucking hossing it down the street and hit these fucking pallets, and literally just boom, just stuck and just flew over the handlebars. head off the curb, just flatlined out. And it was like, Roadrunner, the cartoons and shit like that, when he would fucking bang his head, or one of the cartoons would bang the head to get these fucking hematomas. Yeah. His fucking head was like that. And I remember just being like, completely out, fucking like spazzing all over. And Ginger Irene, who lived over the road from me, man, guys, come out, did the complete opposite of what you should ever do to anyone with a head injury. Just picks us straight up, could have fucking paralysed us or out, carries us into the front room, and that tells us what's happening to me fucking heads like that. Ambulance job, and exactly what you said there, it was just a complete dream. I remember they were in the front, Rye Ellen's got to sit in the front, and they were knocking the sirens on, and fucking they had the time of his life, and I'm in the back fucking spotted. And that's all I remember. I didn't remember getting in the hospital. I don't remember leaving the hospital. I just remember sitting there totting, fall asleep, open my eyes, sit there totting, fall asleep, and it was just a continuous cycle of that. It's fucking, it's a mad thing, you know what I mean? Most of my injuries have been off just stupid shit like that. Daft, and it's always been the daft stuff and all. It's like, you try something mad, and sometimes even if you fucking bail, it still comes out all right. It's always the stupid things that end up being the worst things. You know what I mean?
That's like one kind of thing with that big injury. I fucking wish I knocked myself out or something, because I remember the pain and stuff initially, so like it was yesterday. It does go away though. That's the thing, like the pain, and it's the drive as well. The person like I said, the first injury I had.
And the mindset
and like me man knew from then that I was cracking on, because it didn't bother us and stuff. And it's they make or break people, of course. They do, don't they? I know someone who had a 10-year race career, broke his nose, didn't want to race again, and he was fucking really good as well. And you just look at different perspectives and stuff like that. And
that's it, definitely. It's mad that you're saying that about how about you already know and Ray cut me stuff off, because when I was a fucking kid, there's a few people locally who I knocked about with and stuff like that. I kind of don't even remember how I ended up getting it, mate, but I fucking had this canoe, mate. Somebody give us a canoe. I don't know if it's fucking stole it from somebody's back garden or something, but I ended up in possession of this canoe, and it was fucking winter time, and we live next to a fucking massive hill called the Sandhills, right? And I'm from Grindon, and I knocked about all the Thorny lads, and I would go out, and every day I would fucking drag this canoe from the alley all the way through Grindon, right out of the Sandhills, right up to say the lads, and would get it. And everyone, I think it went about a few different people, and I had it for a while, and we're up the Sandhills one of the days, and it was fucking snowy as fuck. Loads of people from our school and that were there. It was just fucking mint. Everyone's fucking drinking, tapping the piss, just young kids. And I remember, you'll not mind seeing this, George Stewart, he's my pal, and well, there's a stream that runs along like the bottom of where the Sandhills is, and it's like a wide little, it's like a stream, but it's got like a little riverbank, like two banks that go in, and we've kind of built this, or someone had built like a little snow jump. So it's like, right, we're gonna bomb the fucking hill, we're gonna jump that river in the canoe. So George Stewart there, me behind, Chris Beach behind me, and a couple of lasses on the back, and loads of people just running, pushing us down the hill, and we're fucking flatlining it, just flying down, fucking bombing it, and we hit the fucking riverbank, and I'll never forget it, mate. It was mental. We hit the takeoff, and it was like we all still went off it, but it was as if we kind of stuck a bit, and George flew off the front, landed on the other side of the riverbank, but obviously we didn't stop. It just slowed us massively. So when he's landed on us, we kept going, and it just landed on his leg, just completely snapped. Fucking George screaming, then pass out. And that's exactly what happened. We're ringing an ambulance. And it wasn't even a proper ambulance. It was like an ambulance car, like a paramedic in a car. So he'd come in straight away. That's what he'd done. George was still he was like in the icy water and that. It was mad. His fucking legs snapped. I can't even remember if he broke both legs or not. He definitely, one of them was completely snapping. And that's what they did to him there. They cut his like his trousers and that off at the scene. It was fucking, it was mad. Like,
I think that just really, because I've had it done before, and I knew normally you've got a bit of a window when you first hurt yourself where it's painful, but you're not too bad
before it gets set to selling, like, essentially
chop everything off, like get rid of all offers and stuff. And I had a similar, like, it's not as him, like, but in the snow. Remember, there's a pub called the Fiddlers just next to us, and big set of stairs would made like snowboards out of skateboards. Put the skateboard on top of the steps, run and jump on it. It would send you off the side of the steps, down the grass. Done it tons. And then it hit the road at the bottom and just stopped dead. And that just fully face planted, teeth straight through my lip, everything. It was fucking...
It's always the stupid shit like that. And I mean, I've got It was when I was fucking young as fuck. I was a kid bombing down the exact same street I did that on the BMX. I got bombing down, you know, when you were a kid and you used to lie on the skateboard, holding the bottle of there, you know, and it's got the fucking little like pavement slabs. Just nipped one of them, just chin off the deck, split all my chin. Fucking in Barcelona, I got it sent the other day. Actually, it was years ago when I first went out there the first time skating out there, and fucking basically fucking flatline myself there, and I'll try to fucking this massive like pyramid box for a ledge on. Try to fucking tank it and ollie out to the top of there and grind on that, and my back truck locked into the ledge, but the front one missed it, and my foot obviously was on the grip tape, just turned us in midair, flew through the air backwards, land on the back of my head, and just the exact same thing, just like fucking budgies flying around my head and that back, absolutely just stupid, but fun, you know what I mean? Like leads on, like some of the coolest people I've met have been through mad experiences like that, you know what I mean? Just getting introduced to like different friend circles, and it's networking essentially, and like it's
the
cool.
Head stuff's bad, and like it's like I probably the worst. I mean, I've done a bit of boxing stuff, and no, didn't bullshitted it, like shit at it, but being rocked a couple of times when I've more ran into punches myself. Anyone's too hard. But the worst one I had, I crashed it. There was a European Cup at Scotland, and I remember I rocked myself then. Got down the bottom of the track. I was at a caravan at the time, and I remember sitting there, and I was like, I'm blind. Like I was with the lass at the time. I was like, I'm fucking blind. She was like, what do you mean? I was like, it's just pitch black. I can't see a thing. Went to see the ambulance. She says, that is a side effect of concussion or whatever. Need to stay up effectively till you get your vision back. And I was literally fully blind for 5 hours. It was so weird, like so strange.
It's fucking mad.
Your body's minting what it can do.
It's crazy, mate. It's a mad thing. And even feeling that, like, for most people who's never been rocked, it's a fucking mad feeling. And there's loads of different styles of it as well. I mean, I've had took a bad shot before, and it's been like I felt completely fine in myself, but had my eyes completely like cockeyed to the point where like they're like shaking, but both facing the other way, and it took so long for them to get like back locked in. And then I've had other times where I've been hit with a massive shot around the side of my ear, and like being jelly-legged a bit, but being fine consciously, but more so my legs. It's a mad thing how the brain just targets different.
It's like nerves and all that shit.
And it's crazy, man. And all the day, obviously, when Fisher had that concussion before, and he researched loads of it, and he kept hitting dead end after dead end, and it was also just stuff he learned himself from just trying different methods, and it was something to do with like the back of his neck, the nerves in there. It's a mad thing. Like obviously, the helmet's like obviously like when you're riding bikes and stuff like that, protect you. But it's the same as like a head guard when you're boxing. Especially, some people think like obviously you need a helmet when you're riding bikes, but some people think in boxing terms when a head guard causes more damage, and they're saying you're getting your brain rattled more in wearing a head guard. That was the massive debate of it, you know. And then they stopped using them in the last however many Olympics and stuff like that. They've not used them, and then but cuts have been a lot more relevant since that's
like
happened.
Your brain's defense is shutting down, and so it's a bit of a, because what is it? Is it the cerebral fluid or something? What's around your brain? Obviously, that's a lot thinner at the back to the front, and that's why back of the head shots are bad.
Punches,
and like that's where someone told me once. I think it was something. I can't remember what happened, but I had a lot of pain in like. I think it was a strain, something. They said it was a head strain, and it sends it through your body. Yeah. And he was saying, like, you watched the MMA and the box, and he used that as an example. He says, the MMA lads, you'll find they're a lot cleverer for a longer period of time because they get hit less. Yes, it's hard, but it cuts. You generally get knocked out. Yeah. The boxing, you might take 70, 80 punches a fight. Yeah. And it's just the slow rock of the brain fucks that fluid, basically.
Well, I think I can't remember if I spoke to Joe Laws about this. I'm not sure how I brought it up, but basically there's a thing people have spoke about before, and I found it really interesting because MMA is a super young sport, essentially, for how long it's been around, so research and stuff like that. People are only genuinely, for the most part, finding out what the long-term effects are now, and it'll be another however many years before people, because boxing's been around centuries, whereas MMA hasn't. Yeah. But
like we look at Ali, didn't we? Like you see him and you're like, fucking hell, that's bad.
Exactly, mate. And there's a number of cases like that, you know what I mean? Whereas like in boxing, so say for instance, right, you're in a boxing fight, someone puts you down, you get a count. So what happens there is, yes, you've been concussed, but you've got a time where your brain can kind of recompose itself, but it's still got that concussion. So you get your senses back. You're going back into that fight, but you've already got the concussion, but you're going back into the fight and adding to that concussion that you've got. Whereas in MMA, if you get dropped, there's no count, someone's on you. So yeah, I think for the most part, I mean, obviously people can recover and stay safe and have an attacking guard or advanced position, whatever. But for the most part, if you get dropped in MMA, you're still getting punched after that. And your submissions are relevant after that as well. So for the most part, your brain, you get finished, you get dropped, you get finished. Whereas in boxing, you get that time to recover. So you're getting a lot more damage to that already concussed brain, you know what I mean? So that's what it's more so the damage to a concussed brain. It's like if someone gets knocked out in the gym just before a fight or a couple of weeks before a fight, if you still choose to fight, you're a lot more susceptible to being knocked out because you've already got that concussion, you know what I mean? It's a crazy thing. The brain, you know what I mean? It's a mad thing. I mean, obviously with the bikes as well. Look at what was his name? The BMX Dave Mirra, CTE. You know what I mean? And suicide is such a massive thing that comes from that. Like the constant concussions. Dave Mirra, I was a massive fan of him. Like I didn't even ride BMXs, and I used to love him. You know what I mean?
It's strange because is he basically convinced himself this is the only way to go? Is that what your head does?
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what happens. It's just CTE, one of the big things that comes with CTE is suicidal tendencies. You know,
then you must just think like, "I'm done."
I think it just basically just changes your way of thinking completely. You know, so anything that could feel minute to a regular person could seem like the end of the world or someone like that.
Because the worst thing with it as well, I think that's you're like a double personality because you're unconscious almost when you're speaking to your normal people, so they can't tell that there's something wrong with you. Then when you're on your own with your own thoughts, that's when the shit hits the fan type of thing.
It's a mad thing. And obviously, like, to the person who's got it, like, obviously, like, you feel like obviously you're alone in that thing because you know what I mean, like they don't know how you're feeling, but how many concussions has he had? He's knocked himself out a million times. I've watched loads of footage where he's fucked himself badly on a bike. You know what I mean? And
I think contributing towards that as well is the sportsman side of it. He's competed for so many years.
So long,
that gets shut off one day. I bet you that contributes towards it as well. Like,
of course it does. It's
you'll feel almost useless in a way, even though you're not. You've done so much, and
that's what I was speaking to Dan Hardy about this, mate. Right, and it was like when all that shit was going on with my brain scans, he's had something pretty similar, but his was something that come up with his heart. I think it was something to do with his heart, so they wouldn't clear him to fighting. And that's what I was saying to him. I was like, well, like I was in a position then where I was fully in myself wanting to fight and not getting cleared and hearing all this stuff, and it's as if you've lost your identity. Like, it doesn't matter if you never rid a bike again, mate. Yes, Scotty. You know what I mean. You're Scott, who's the fucking the fucking madman on a bike. You know what I mean. Whereas, like, if I was to never fight again, you've done it. You're always going to be that guy. But when it's on you, like if Dan Hardy never fought again, he's always Dan Hardy. He's Dan Hardy's fought GSP. He's thingy. But when it's on you, it's like that is what you feel like your purpose is. So obviously for him, when he's not riding or whatever like that, it's like you kind of lose that part of yourself. And it's the whole thing that you've kind of promoted yourself and built yourself that much on, that it's kind of like taken from you. You know what I mean?
That's where a lot of people, like, you see them go one way or another, don't you, with that? Because it's like the bubbles, the sort of the balloons being deflated type of thing. Like,
a lot of footballers and that,
It's like, and they're gone rage, they're gone on mental sort of this and that, and I can see where that would come from, because it's the same with everything. Like the way we, like I've said to you before, it's hard. We never feel enough. Yeah. And that's a good thing because we drive and we push. But then normal circumstances, it's shit like that's affected so many relationships and friendships. And it's, we're that type of person. Yeah. And
that's another thing that people don't see. Like, obviously you in riding and stuff like that, and in your mentality with the shop and how much of a high work ethic you've got. It's like, that's another thing that people didn't see. I mean, like, for me personally, I know that I've caused a lot of problems for myself in being the way I have been, you know, like obviously problems at home, you know, like obviously the way I am, it's like if I get something in my head, it's like, right, this is what I'm doing. Yeah. And I'm a stubborn
nightmare to be around.
I'm a stubborn motherfucker, you know what I mean? And it's caused a lot of problems, and it's like, it's just trying to find that thing. And obviously you said before about the balance of trying to like keep everything, like when you were saying when you were young, you had the mix of like, right, I'm going to do this, and then I'd see the lads then. But for me, what it was I grew up being an absolute scrote, knocking about with the worst people ever. So when I started boxing, that took us away from that. And then anytime the season ended or something like ended, like I wasn't training and there's that little gap, I would end up back with the, I've got on drinking and smoking fucking fags and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like just being an idiot, a young kid boxing, and it's mad. Like it's just how easy, and then obviously that just shows you how easy it is to slip into that. Even from being then, like so, like you see how many people when the career is said and done, if they didn't get themselves somewhere else set up, it's so easy to go that route. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I kind of like. I've had the point where, like Danny always say, it was hard. Like I would, at the end of the day, I was kind of traveling the world racing, and I was pretty much breaking even, really. Yeah. It probably cost $7 or $8 a year to race. I was getting a bike for free, a couple of bits of kit. When I sold that, it sort of evened itself out. So I got to travel, I got to race. Danny, he's unbelievable. He's always, he had a few years where he wasn't earning a lot of money. He does well now. And he would always say, like, Scott, like, as a friend, like, do you not, it's up to you totally what you're doing, but do you not have that point where you think, I need to knock it on the head now. I'm just burning the candle here and it's not going any further.
Something's got to give.
And like, I kind of did. And that's when I started the shop. So then that opened up different areas where I could have a few weeks off and it wouldn't make any difference. And the pressure come back off a bit again then. And then I enjoyed racing. I loved it. And it got serious to the point where I was battering the hatches at every point, training, home, food, this, race, and I wasn't even enjoying racing. So I was doing everything through the week, and it was getting to a race on a Saturday, and I was almost relaxing once up rather than getting a race back. I'm gonna fucking kill it. I was almost like job's complete, and I was at a race. So that also, I didn't think I was performing at the best then.
So your mindset towards it kind of changed.
Like the goal was almost getting to the race. And that was, it was so strange. I never felt like probably 5 races in the 12 years. No, I raced the World Series for 10 years and I raced overall for 14 years. Then I kind of wrapped a little bit after I hurt myself. I'd done 2 or 3 little races. Then I had a year and a half off. I started working for Danny and I'd done 3 races during working for Danny, and I've never enjoyed every single run and every single bit as much as that. When I was racing, I wish I had that mindset then. Nothing was there, and I'd done nearly the best. Like I'd done really well, and I wouldn't change any of it. It's taught us so much, and I'd love to pass that on to people, and I try and help people so much with that.
That's exactly that. That's what I've said a lot of times about myself. Like I feel like the northeastern area and the region that's always been overlooked. Like back in the boxing days, mate, I've beat some kids who I would beat someone and then they'd go and box for England. You know what I mean? Not long after, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, I've just fucking skilled that guy. You know what I mean? Like if you get me medical card and look at some of the kids I beat and then some of the opportunities they've had after that, it's like, what the fuck? Like, like, and it's like, it's mad. Like obviously you've seen that about there, like the guns back to that mindset thing. Like you were saying there, like the thing for you earlier on was just getting there, like that for me, when I first started MMA, mate, right? Like I started that and coming from a open class boxing where I'd won titles and for Sunderland ABC and stuff like that and done well and been fighting some fucking really, really top kids and then coming to MMA where I knew Nelt and then training for my first fight, like that to me was like, oh, you're going to have a fight, you can fight for us. Right, I'm going to do this. And then for me, meant to fight and something never happened and then meant to fight again, never happened. And got on there, it was the Strike and Submit Contenders show at the Rockville Hotel. I live right next to it now. And that show there ended up gone there. And I remember, like, as you're saying now about it was more so about just getting there, like that to me, because we always in the gym, like a couple of the lads I train with, it would be like us. One of the lads had one amateur MMA fight. And he used to always wind us up and be like, oh, you're a mat fighter, you're not an actual MMA fighter, you're just a mat fighter and all that. And it used to proper bug us. So eventually getting there, and I was having a semi-pro fight as well. And it was like fucking mad rules back then. It was like you're fighting pro MMA gloves, knees to the head and all this shit and loads of different shit. And I'll be like reading and sitting in the rules meeting, signing this thing, like, oh, you can get paralyzed. Fucking hell, like. So that was the same for me. That was just like, fucking hell, just being here and just doing this to me was like, this is fucking mad. And even in the fight, I remember everyone coming up and saying, fucking hell, Carl, you're going to fucking smash this guy. And I remember looking at him thinking, this is going to be hard to fight. This guy, lean as fuck, pale as out, ginger guy, shredded, and I was like, he's going to be nailed. I just knew it. And mate, still to this day, I've had 41 fights now, Scott, and I'd still see it to this day. He's in the top 3 of the hardest fights I've ever had. My first MMA fight, I was 18, and I remember in that fight, right, I hit him with the kitchen sink in the first round. I was planting my feet, landing shots and fucking bursting them up. And I remember sitting there and I don't think he's going to come out. I was like fucking sitting down thinking, oh, is it out? And he's coming out, right, you're fighting again. And mate, he just got tougher and tougher. And I remember he took us down because my whole thing was anti-grappling. It was if you get taken down, you're not grappling, you grapple into to be defensive and get back to your feet, like sprawl and brawl, like just tailored that my level then to be able to like, essentially anti-grapple, anti-wrestle, just stay on my feet, and that's kind of where I started off, and then that's which ended up leading us on to spending a lot more time grappling and then falling in love with grappling, But at that time, that's where I was at, and I remember at one point in the fight, he took us down and he nearly got on me back, and I was stuck in a funny position, and I was fucking knackered. He was more tired than me, but I was knackered, and it was a proper fucking tough fight, and I remember being in a position there and exactly what you said there, but more about just happy to be there. I remember thinking like this is God's honest truth, I'll not even lie about this. I remember thinking, if he submits me now, I'm not bothered, because the fact that I'm happy and I'm proud of myself for doing as well as I've done so far. And I wasn't quitting, but that was just a mild mate in a fight. You can do these whole different sequences. You land a shot and you're like, I'm fucking winning. I'm winning. You'll get hit with a shot, or something will happen. I'm losing. And you have this constant cycle of just mad fucking thoughts. And that was one of the moments where I was super relaxing in my head, just thinking like, if it's over now, I've done myself a justice. You know what I mean? Obviously, I ended up winning, and it was a fucking min fight, and it was fucking mad. Like after the fight, I remember like me and Fisher and whoever cornered us was more cordial actually hugging, and then them guys hugging. But as I hugged them, I turned around and I ended up with their fucking team hugging. It was just a mint fight. It was just a fucking class time in my life. It was mint, but it all comes back to that mindset thing, didn't it? It's the side that people didn't see about it.
Is that like similar to racing, where when you're fighting, do you not hear anything?
It's mad. It's more so like, no, when I first started fighting, especially when I first started fighting in MMA, it would be like tunnel vision, mate. It would be crazy, and that would be like so fucking intense and mad and scary and euphoric. Essentially,
that odd little thing,
and would be like, what the fuck? And it would just be like, something would happen, and it would just be like I was in a fucking tornado. And then the more fights I have, and the more experience I got, and the more time I spent in the cage fighting and stuff like that, I got more. So now, like the last few I've had, I've been in there, and it's been like super broken down like that. When I fought Nathan Grayson, I was getting people watch it like, how are you so calm in that position? And it's like in my head, I thought, oh, I'm fine. I watch it back, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I've took a lot of fucking damage there, but what in that moment there, like just the experience, like in my head, I was fine then. It's in more so now I hearing a lot more, and like I remember the first one in South Africa when I went out, and I'm hearing people talking to us in the cage and seeing stuff about us and that, and it was just like every time just more experience, you're breaking things down and being more present in the moment. You know what I mean? Do you feel like about racing as well? Do you feel like the more experience you get, you're more, I mean, it's a million mile an hour, you're fucking flat out in racing, so it's kind of different in that aspect, but do you feel like you kind of have a better awareness of breaking something? So if you're coming down flying and you come to a berm, do you feel like now you've got a better awareness of like basically preparing for what you're about to do, or do you just feel like it's
kind of like it's a bit like, you will drill 3 things, say what you can do. If you've been hit, if you've been rocked, if you're dazed, racing gets like that. So you practice so much. And the odd race run here and there, you'll remember every bit of it. But generally, it is kind of automatic. And Fort William's the best, where there's 44,000 people there. It's loud as fuck. Yeah, everyone's screaming. As soon as you set off, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. As soon as you set off, when I'm there, there's people there watching his friends and stuff. I'm just blank to the world till you pull on the bit called the motorway where the big jumps are, and it like all just snaps in there, and you just hear everybody instantly. And that's like at the start of the motorway, you've kind of made it. All the hard tracks further up, that's the easy part.
The floor kind of section.
Aye.
So when you've raced and Scott and stuff like that, do you get to basically visualize? Do you get to learn the track before you race it, or is it sometimes you're there and you didn't know what's coming ahead?
It'll be marked separate every time you get there, but you'll have 2 or 3 days practice. So you'll literally
learn.
Say you'll do, I don't know, say you'll do 14 practice runs at Fort William. You will know every single pebble.
That's
on
the
that
best.
track.
That makes sense.
That contributes towards a racer as well, like that ability to learn.
And obviously being a good racer, that could probably be a part that comes into it. The people who are better at like depicting what kind of thing, like learn.
Spend less time doing them things in other areas. So it was a hell of a time racing stuff. It was mint, the stuff I've done and learned, people I've met, and like it's mad because that's also an injury side of things. When you're racing at that level, that's when you kind of don't get hurt. It's when you're fucking around.
That's exactly
like,
right. It is. So you know when,
because you're fully focused at that speed level you can go at, you're in total control.
And you're
of
in
that
full
point.
awareness of the risk. So I think you're already in that kind of flow state in your mind to be like, right, this is what's happening. Your adrenaline's gone. You're locked into it. It's the same as fighting, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas you in the gym, you get fucking hit. I mean, didn't get us wrong in fights. Just you go on the show, you get wet in fights. You still get hit and stuff like that. But you kind of, you've got that. The adrenaline keeps you sharp, and that's exactly what you're saying. When you're not switched on like that, you haven't got the adrenaline. Your reactions are not the same. It's a fucking mad thing. It's like it's daft, really, you know. Like I know a guy like Dan Main, amazing skateboarder, mate, fucking phenomenal skateboarder. He danced to Barcelona and he's chilling. He's fucking, I think he was having a fucking can of beer or something. He's just cruising on the street and falls and fucking snaps his wrist horrendously. One of the worst injuries of his life. It's on Thrash's fucking Harlem E page and everything, like a ridiculous injury. And it's fucking just, it's always when you're not switched on that kind of shit happens. Did you know, when so say, for instance, for me personally, in my life in fighting, if I've won fights, didn't get us wrong, I've got a really good circle of people around us who I trust in, and then I know that they're genuine, and I've got a lot of people who I know that are not as well, and I accept that, and it's not part and parcel that comes with it. But when you lose a fight, I feel like a lot of people do kind of change around you, you know, like, mate, like this is it's mad, like I shouldn't get too thingy about it, but there's times like I've went out somewhere and someone's pestered us to come and see them or whatever, and I've got time for anyone, maybe, and I've gone out my way to go and see someone, just some normal dude and thingy, and then you lose a fight in the fucking to completely turn you. It's like, it's mad. Do you feel like when you've, say for instance, when you've went through a bad patch, you've had a bad injury and stuff like that, do you feel like anything changed around you then or not?
It's not. It's yes and no, but it's not really that. I don't want to say mainstream yet. So it's not televised that much. So you don't really get the people watching you and then people are generally there.
Yeah.
Or the part of it, they're involved in it deep anyways. Yeah. You get a tiny bit of it, like, especially like I spend so much time with Danny and he gets it. Yeah, like, of course he does. And that's going to happen to that. He's got
when you get
hundreds thousands of fans all over the world. And yes, you do. But then they'll pick and choose, like when they want to like sort of be on your side and stuff. But I was always in, but the other thing as well, you might have 12 or 14 races a year. So there's always another race happens before that thing can sink in of people thinking, he's done.
It's like a footy match, essentially. If your football team loses, it's a shit for a couple of days, but they've got a next match the next week. Whereas in fights, it's like
there's a big gap.
A huge fucking pedestal and then it's like that whole time of doing that.
So it's not too bad. You get your fans and your people like that. And it's, we don't, people are generally there and enjoy it, so they're not really, unless you're in that top 10 or whatever, you're not really getting judged for not being stuff like that. Definitely rather see you pulling a big fucking jump or something like that, and which doesn't pay the bills, but you've got to hit sometimes.
Right, definitely. So for people who's watching, how did it come about that you ended up being Danny Hart, Danny Hart's world champion downhill mountain biker? For anyone who's watching, how did you end up being his mechanic? How did that come around?
Well, he never really thought it until a certain point, because he always thought I would struggle to go from being a racer, almost competing against him, to working for him. It's, people would say it as derogatory in a way, but it's not like that's me. I've still succeeded because I've thrown myself in that position. But basically it was New Year's Eve. I was sat in my house and his old mechanic had a few issues. He pretty much dropped him in the shit then, which was a bit late in the year. Normally, if you're doing something, you do it September, end of the season, got a few months to find someone. And I just went, I'll work for you for 50 grand a year. And he went, I can't give you that much. He went, but would you? And I went, well, let's work something out. And the manager rang us the next day, and we had a bit crack. I knew the manager, Will Longden. He took us to the first 4 or 5 years in the World Cup. So I used to drive with him. He worked for the MBUK team at the time, and we got on well, and it just went from there, really. And it was good, like, because I've got the 9 to 5 work, I knew what I had to do during them hours. We could have a bit of laugh, have a bit of crack. Danny also as well kind of treated that way. So we could say things to each other, which as a friend, maybe you wouldn't normally see it, but we never got offended by it. And that worked well from then. It really worked well as friendship balance and stuff. And also you appreciated me because I was fast. Because I'm fast doesn't mean I'm a good mechanic. Being a good mechanic doesn't mean you're fast, doesn't make any difference. You might be the best coach going, you might be horrendous, but you can put it in perspective for yourself. And he knew I could mechanic, he knew I race, so I knew what to do and where to get to, and that helped because he believed what I'd done as well.
So what year did that start in?
2019. I'd done 2019, and then the Corona season 2020. So that was like, it got to the point at the end of 2020 when the shop was so busy, and I was like, I need to knock this on the head now. And also 2 years together, we got on well. He had a little bit of friction with the team, and that wore off with his relationship a tiny bit. It wasn't bad. It was just like, come on, Danny, like, let's sort us out. And we'd struggle to get motivation a little bit towards the end. I knew it was the right time to knock it on the head. And literally from that day, it changed back to being best friends again. Like it was good. So I knew it was the right time to knock it on the head. And he's good. He surprised me so much. He gets faster and faster and faster. And like, he's 28 now, I think, and 29, and he's been at the top for like 10 years. Like, he's up there. And it's so surprising that he just keeps getting better. Really, it's good. It's good to watch, and I appreciate all that. Like, he's done a lot for me during that time, and it's led on to some good stuff for me.
Definitely.
And it's meant
good networking and stuff like that. It's mad how things change over time as well, isn't it? Because like back when I was early on fighting and stuff like that, like everyone would be like, right, this is your window of time that you've got. You get to this age, and this is kind of when you're like essentially going to be over the hill. But then everyone now, I know, like people look at Max Holloway, he's 29-year-old, and people say he's young, he's got all these years left. Like Fisher's 33-year-old, and he had the best run of his life from that, you know. And it's like, do you feel like that's the case in racing? Did racing used to be like a young man's thing, and it's getting better now, or do you feel like the time changes with age? And do you feel like when you get to a certain age, people start slowing down or kind of think about risk more and kind of change that way? What do you think?
It's like,
scenario?
I think I'd come into it too late. Like myself, I'd really started racing competitively when I was like 18. I think you need to be doing BMX when you're 10, 11, 12, start racing when you're 13, 14. But it's a weird one because you've got like Greg Minor. He was like, he's been putting pen to paper right to retire, and he fucking won a race at the end of last year. He's 41, I think. He's been at the top since he was 18, like constantly. He's one of them, you turn up to a race, and if you had to pick anybody and put 100 million on it, you'd probably pick him because he could win at any point. You've got your younger sort of era like Bruni and that, and they're like 24, 25. I think that is your prime, like 24, 25, when gym work really starts to set in. You've got a good core, good base, good people around you. You've learned a lot mentally. But
do you think it's subjective to the person as well? Or I know a guy, I met him through Dodgy, one of the lads I've been riding bikes with and stuff like that, and he introduced me to a guy, Jordan, from I think he's from Leeds way. Jordan, he does downhill and stuff like that, and I think he's like 40, 41-year-old. And when I seen him ride, we went up the lakes and we did skidder.
Yeah.
And honest to God, I went up there and I come off me fucking bad, split me. I've got split that fucker in half. I come over the handlebar, split that, and fuck myself. And mate, honest to God, he was like about telling us about how steep and sheely it was, and how fast you'd actually go and see, and like literally just you're going to be on the brakes for most of the time. Danny, it's that savage. And I literally got the top, and he's telling everyone this, and I turned around and he's fucking 6'7" cranks flying down. He come off, but honest to God, to see him hit that, I was like, this guy is a fucking lunatic. Because to me, that is like, that's imminent death. If I let off the brakes for 2 seconds, you're not getting it back. You start braking, you're sliding, and the speed is just getting faster in the slide. I loved it.
Like, amazing. It's weird because I feel like I was at my fastest about 26, but I feel like I would be faster across a season, like now, when I've learned the most, and that's come together with the talent side of it. Whether I would or I wouldn't, I don't know, but there's no real right and wrong with it, really.
It's subjective to the person now.
Worst thing would be if injuries catch up with you.
Yeah, because then you're not recovering the same way and stuff like that. But it's mad because in the same sense, like obviously you get that kind of stubborn mentality where it's like, I'm gonna fucking give it a go, and if I fuck it, and then sometimes that's when you have the best performances ever, exactly. Because you're not putting that kind of pressure on yourself. You're not building it up that same way. It's an interesting thing. Obviously, the mind is an interesting thing, and seeing how people process things differently is it is super interesting. I mean, I obviously see Danny yourself. I remember watching the video for the first time, and that was it 2016 when he won that.
He won one in 2011 and one in 2017.
2017.
The 2011 one's the big.
Is that the one in the comedy?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I remember watching that, and I watched that, and I wasn't even fucking riding bikes then, and I watched that, and watching that.
You get shivers, didn't you?
I get shivers, man. I'm watching that, and that to me, that's why I fucking get on the bike, and I'm like, I want to fucking drive this, and it gets you fired up. It's motivational, and like anyone who hasn't rid a bike, I mean, obviously most people's rid a bike, but I mean in that sense, and try to give that a go. I mean, like it's a fucking buzz, man. It's like out like a fighter buzz, the skateboarding, the motorbikes. I love bike. Anything outside the ordinary that's gonna give you that feeling is unreal. You know what I mean?
It's hard that then, like we said before, that leads to your daily life as well. Sometimes, if you get the high from that, you then try and get more out of every day. Sure. Sometimes it's hard, but like. That's another thing where, like Danny, with the high of feeling, I've never felt so good or as nervous as when I've sent him down the hill and I've worked on the bike. He's my friend, and his success and everything going right was like
on you.
Yes, a lot of it was on me. Like, if I feel a race, it's me.
Yeah,
it's fucking
you're
whatever.
in control of what goes on. It's similar to me before. I was talking to someone about it before a little while back. When I was still fighting for EFC in South Africa, basically I was in a mad transitional period where I was like, right, I'm working Friday, Saturday and Sunday night shifts, getting knee sleep all weekend, and then going to the gym on a Monday morning straight from finishing fucking Tesco night shift, falling asleep behind the wheel in the car all the time. This was a regular thing. Honestly, I've fucking loads of times. God knows how I've only just fucking started crashing cars now, because that was, if I was ever going to crash, it should have been then. Fully asleep loads of times, mate, off the brrr, and I'm like, fucking hell, and I'm in the grass next to East Baldwin, and I'm like, what am I doing? So I'm like, right, fuck that off. Ended up causing loads of shit at home. I wasn't bringing any money in. Hannah's fucking spending money left, right, and centre, keeping us afloat. I didn't have no income at all. And just like doing mad shit like that, and fucking hell, I can't even remember where I'm going with that. What was I going to say? I was going to say something that was fucking that led us on to that. What were we just saying there?
Like about when you were saying about how you're doing all the night shifts, then and going to. I thought that. I know there was the feeling of
the buzz of that. I fucking hell. I didn't even know where I was going.
The pressure of some under when it's out of your control.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry. So that's where I was going with that. Sorry. So basically, so I was doing that, and I stopped that, and I thought, well, what do I love doing? I'm training full time anyway. What do I love doing? I love being in a gym, right? I'm going to speak to a gym in Sunderland, local gym. There wasn't really at the time anywhere really in Sunderland that had a thing. So I opened my own MMA club, started training guys from that, and I basically started training some lads. And it was mad how I met one of the guys. Sometimes they do the charity boxing event, and I would be one of the ones. There's 4 of us, and I'd be one of the ones who would pad them in each round. So I'd warm one up while the other lad was cornering them. They'd come back warm the next one up. I'd corner them, and I met a guy, Mitch Oley, and got on straight away. Told him that I was opening this club, and I says, "Oh look, you did well in your fight there. If you want to learn some MMA, come train with us." And he did, and I trained him up to have a fight. He actually ended up fighting. He was supposed to fight one guy. It was a good, fair match fight, and then that guy pulled out, and then he got another guy, and it was a tough fight a tough test for a first one. But it was one of them things I knew. It was like, right, does he end up fighting some knacker and get to win? It's nice to win in front of all your friends and family, or does he have a hard test and a hard fight? And if he wins, then it's going to be so much more beneficial. And if he doesn't, there's knee pressure because it's not nice losing, but he's fighting a good guy, so there's knee thing. And we took it, and sending Mitch out for that was the exact same as what you were saying there with Danny. Because to me, when I was warming him up, I was like, this is this is on me now, you know what I mean? And he went in it. He didn't get one, but he did really well. Some of the stuff he did, fighting an experienced kid who trained for years as well, he did well, you know what I mean? But that was the exact same feeling for me, putting on that I've trained this lad for this, and fucking hell, it's here now, and it's on me, and it's like it's there, you know.
It's so strange, isn't it?
It's mad. It's a mad way to think. It's a different kind of pressure. It's weird.
Yeah, their perspective as well as like Danny's perspective, the way the top level work is kind of different to us. So like I said, I had the feeling of like Danny will get to a race and he won't really do anything he doesn't need to do. I'll go to a race and I'll do anything there. I'm not bothered, whatever. there's differences like that. It's weird because you would think initially my drive and wanting to get more from every day would lead to doing better.
Aye.
But maybe my relaxing downtime was riding the bikes and I didn't realise that. It was kind of reverse rule of me daily shit. I was doing too much to get from. So, because training's never been a hard thing for me. I've always enjoyed training, the gym, which like you were saying about when you said about pulling out the fights and stuff like that. With I got matched up for 3 MMA fights. I think I've trained from like 23 to 27 quite a bit. Absolutely loved it. Like with John Bell at the time, who was the fight pit, was like, get yourself a fight. And all in all, I got matched up for 3. And the final straw was at the stadium I lied. The kid changed on the Monday, so I had to drop like 4 kilos. Then I was literally warmed up with a kid, and the second kid pulled out. So effectively like 4 fights. And I was like, this isn't for me. I was still trying to race at the time, cutting weight, training, and loads of little injuries and stuff like that. And what you do with that, it's a lot, isn't it? Like you have a lot.
It's a massive thing. That's what I mean. And it's so easy for people.
I fucking love eating as well. So.
I do as well, mate. Like, look at the fucking size of us now. You know what I mean? It's fighting at fucking 61 kilos and walking about what I do. And that's always been my, like, the hindrance to me, you know, like, I wish I could have been more professional. And you know what, though, that's another thing I come into. Like, a lot of time people say, oh, you should be this and that. And it's like, well, that's fair enough. And for the people that can do that, that's meant for them. And that's ideal, you know, and mint. But for me personally, if I was to be the way I need to be realistically all year round with the diet, I would fucking detest MMA, and I would probably not do it. And that's, you know, that's what it's been for so long. I when I'm in the fight camp, or just before now, I've got to get into a fight camp, super dedicated, whatever. And outside of that, I like to enjoy myself. It's anything in moderation. That's the way I like to live my life, essentially. But there's so much guns into it, man, and there's so much sacrifice. Like, it's so easy for people to write it off, you know, especially if you lose a fight, it's the easiest thing in the world to give someone stick, but it's like, they didn't see what guns in it. And not even just the thing, like they're watching the fight, or they say that, it's all the other shit in the background, the way you feel in yourself. It's the whole fight camp, you know, you'll go into the gym, so you're hungry, especially me, the amount of weight I put during fight camp. I'm going to the gym, I'm knackered, I'm having a shit session, I'm getting fucking subbed in the gym, on getting sparring and getting smashed, and that's it. You're going home after that and you're telling yourself all day,
you feel deflated,
I'm shit, this and that, and that's the side of it.
You get into a fight, you should be at the level at the top level.
It's a tough thing, man, and it's the same with you with the racing. You know, if kids are not racing, they're watching that and thinking like, fucking hell, like, he's riding a bike, or it's the same as me, or he's having a fight. But it's such a hard thing, man. It's so.
But would mean you have done as much if we didn't have that balance of, when you're on the camp, I want to have some fun. When my season finishes come November, I'm having 4 weeks on the drink, or whatever.
I wouldn't. That's exactly
what I do as well, because that turn down time then makes me eager as fuck to get back on the bike.
That's exactly what it's been for me. That's when I had that time out before, when I stopped. For me, when I had that time out, when I stopped, it was like I lost a lot of time in years when I could have been pushing and being ahead of where I am now and where I have been. But at the same time, it's counterproductive, because it's like, if I'd have done that, then maybe I would have forced myself to do it. I would have stopped, because I would have hated the lifestyle I was having, and I might have never went back. I took that time out, and in that time out, I learned a lot about myself. I got to really a lot of shit that was going on in my own mind, in my own mind space, and cleared that, and then I went back to the gym, and I had a completely different mindset and a completely different self-belief when I went back. It was I just looked at things differently. Like when I went back, it was like, right, I know I want to be here now. Whereas before it was a hobby. And then, so when I went back, I was like, right, I know I want to do this, and this is what I'm going to put my time into.
The expectation from people grows as well and stuff. Definitely. In that period. And that's like, I'm going back racing this year. And people, I keep saying that, and people, oh yeah, you're going back racing this year. I'm just like, man, I'm turning up and I'm riding my bike. I'm not racing. If I do well, I do well. And hopefully this is when you do better. But there's a couple of good races coming up, and it should be a good season.
Do you think when you do that, obviously feeling that way is the best way to look at it? And that's the same for me. You know, if I was to get a grappling match set up now or something, and I can, and it's like, yeah, it's fun and I'm going to enjoy it. But at the same time, then you still get that little bit of thingy creeping in, like, yeah, if I get beat up this guy or something happens to you, like, and people ain't going to think this of me. Would you think that's as if you're going to a race now and you're just kind of going to enjoy it? Do you think, fucking hell, if I have a bad in here, they're going to then think that the whole perception of the Derg, you know, is it, am I losing that kind of thing? Because it's always that little bit of self-doubt, you know what I mean? It always creeps in, doesn't it, in out?
It doesn't help because like there's this website called Roots and Rain, and that gives you all your results and stuff, and it doesn't help because I raced like a decent level for a few years, and the results are up and down. A few British results are like 60th, 10th, wherever. The world's results are like 20th to 40th all over. But then like since I hurt myself, I'd done Fort William World Cup. That was my 10th World Cup at Fort William. Knocked it on the head. I wasn't in the right mindset. Since then, I've had like 5 or 6 races, and I've like won pretty much every one of them. See, look at my last result, and it's just all first. I'm like, that piles a bit of pressure on it as well.
Because you want to keep it up, you know, and you get that thirst for it. It's like when you win a good fight, or as you say, the same way with the racing, you take and you think, you know what, like you get that feel for it. Like I don't know what you feel before race. Do you get nervous or not?
Well,
I know it's a pressure thing as well.
When I was trying to make it work, yes. No, not so much now. Well, I didn't until I done a national at the end of 2019. I done a national, and there was a few decent people there. It was the end of the year, wasn't that many people then. Enjoyed every single run, and it wasn't until I done a qualifier. Well, people kept saying during practice, "Fuck me, Scott." Like I rode a bike once that year. Like you're fucking flying. I'm like, I'm just having fun, mate. Like whatever. And then I done qualifying, and I won qualifying by like 4 seconds or something. I was like, shit, this is real. Like I can do decent here. And I didn't ride the same in the finals. I didn't qualify because I knew I could do. I won by more.
You kind of switched it off a bit.
And I didn't quite enjoy it. I loved the qualifying run and then same with like I'd done a race at Hampstead at the start last year. That was the last race anybody done before lockdown. And I'm practicing and stuff, and like my dad coming, he doesn't see a lot. He's just like him and just you sound that's enough.
My dad's like that.
And he was like, "Fuck me," he says, "You're fucking flying." And I was like, "Aye." And a few people start seeing it, and that starts building. You think, I can win here. I can fucking win here. And then I done first practice run, I think, and I was like 4.5 seconds ahead of everyone. And like a couple of lads are there. Brayton was there. He's raced World Cup still. He just come out of a full season, and I'm like, "Fucking, I can win here." And I'd done a little bit better. Brayton got much closer. I think I won by 0.4, 0.8 in the end. And like, it's just a strange feeling of I didn't want to put that pressure on. Same this year, like a few people offered us some deals, not massive deals, like, "Oh, we'll give you helmets, all this. If you do all this on the social media." And I was like, "I'll just buy a helmet, £100. I didn't want that pressure from it. Like Santa Cruz, they have helped. They're sponsors for like 10 years now.
You've got a good thing.
That's led on to selling them at the shop. They're phenomenal with us. Same with Berg Tech. I'm doing a thing with Stoke Clothing now with the shop. And
like, Stoke Clothing guy seems like a nice guy.
He's spot on.
It's good. It's good that something like that's happening. It's good. It is.
Tons of people have always helped us. And Santa Cruz this year, I haven't had anything off them for 2 years, and I just messaged them, "I want to do a few races." Sent us 2 bikes. Not even like do this, do that, and that's mint sound. I can do whatever I want. I sell the bikes through the shop, and there's no pressure at all. These people are like, "Oh, I want 7 posts a year," and I was like, "Fuck this!" It's obligations. I'm just having fun.
It's weird how, like, obviously you get like, no matter however on you get, you know, you'll always have that thing. It's like what we've gone back to off earlier. Now that drive. It's like when I first stopped doing MMA and stuff like that, and I was just chilling out doing my own thing, and when I went back to the gym. And I just wanted to be a hobbyist. I've had me fights and stuff like that. I'm not asked about fighting. I just want to come back for me and fitness to benefit myself and my mental health and just for health and fitness in general. And I went back and then I'm sparring. I'm like, you know what? Like, I've had fucking nearly 4 years out, and I feel like
sweet.
I'm on the money. You know what I mean? Like, why should I not? Now I'm watching the guys, and no disrespect, all savages, you know. And I'm training. I'm like, you know what? Like, considering I've had that long out, I'm not as bad as I was expecting to be, and I'm like, I should fight, you know. And then it spiraled from there, and it's like I think I'll always have that, you know, even if I had loads of time out again and went back and with the same with years racing, you know, you have a double of it, and you realize you're always going to have that kind of competitive spirit, essentially, you know.
I've had a few little periods of not wanting to do it. More when I was taking it really serious, but now because like there's a British race in May.
Yeah.
Then I've got the Masters Worlds, which is in France in August.
Mm-hmm.
Anything between them, I don't care. I'll get to a Thursday, and if I didn't want to race, I won't.
Aye.
If I do, I'll go, and I love it. And that's the way I want to deal with this now.
Take it or leave it kind of thing. Pick what you want to do.
That's when I'll enjoy it.
Definitely.
And that's when it'll be sound. And it's just the pressure. I think like even like last year when lockdown opened up again, me and Danny got the chance. We went straight over to France, spent a couple of weeks there, done loads of helmet cameras and stuff. And people were like, what the fuck? Like, because I was on him. He was on. He was riding hard. I would stay on him. I would go in front of him. And he's going, fucking, what you ride like a fucking idiot? Like I was like, oh, you've got to do this race. You've got it. I was like, whoa, no. Like I'm enjoying this. And I can turn it on if I want to, and there's not. But I didn't want that like pressure or shit like that.
It's mad, you know. When I took that time out before, it was weird. I used to have like, I don't want to say anxiety attacks or whatever, but you know, like I would feel.
You build it up yourself, don't you?
It's different now. You know, I have a fight now and you win, it's mint, you lose, it's shit, but whatever. But when I was younger, I'd do it and I'd be like, fucking hell, like I literally cannot believe I've just put myself back through that whole fucking mad roller coaster of emotions and terror, mate. I would have these mad things like, fucking hell, I've signed myself up, I'm going to have another fight. What fucking hell? And I got to the point where it was mad. I could never think of myself as saying, right, you're going to go pro and you're going to try and push this. And when I did, it was like a mad thing. And when I stopped, I was like, right, you know, it was like a release. Oh, I've never got to feel that pressure again. You know, I'm not putting that pressure and I'm not living that uncomfortable life. I'm putting myself on that. And it was weird. And I kind of got used to that and I kind of lived that. And then when I went back, I was like, you know what? Like I built that whole thing up when you said in my own head. It's like a fight. Essentially, it's a big thing, but realistically, it's fuck all. No one really, deep down, if you win, I'm in. And if not, it's not the end of the world. But back then, to me, I would have this mad thing about it. And I thought there's no way I can ever like comprehend me doing this full time and actually trying it because of how it used to terrify me. You know, even when that was like 30 fights deep or something, you know, and I would still have this thing like, how much further can I take this? How much more thing? And then it just got easy. I had a mad like transitional period where it just changed. And it was just like, even though I was trying to actually push myself, the fights never really felt is like much of a big scary thing. After that is what it did for that little weird period in my life. And it was like early end of me semi-pro career to me starting my pro career. It was weird. I went through a mad thing there, and that was kind of a lot of what it kind of played into is not wanting to date and took that time out. Yeah,
I think it's as well like it's hard to say because of like you've got that. I'm your own worst enemy. Yeah. Like you'll train with people and stuff and do that. When I go in the gym on my own, I kill myself. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't do that. I'm not saying fucking hell, you need to torture yourself every time you train or whatever, but I'm your own worst enemy. And again, it works well because you're then most prepared for it. But again, getting to an event you've already achieved because you've done that to yourself for so long. It's a funny scenario, isn't it? Like
it's mad. So like obviously taking it back to the shop, sorry. What's your like what's the kind of end game and where do you want the shop to be? What do you want it to bring about? Because I know you obviously I know the type of person you are. I know you like to give back to the community and in to mountain biking essentially as well. Like what kind of goals have you got for the future?
I mean, I've dabbled a little bit with coaching, mountain bike coaching here and there and stuff. That would be kind of good. I think I'd like to get out there more. Now I'm so tied up in fixing other people's bikes, getting other people on the bikes, it kind of takes me away from it a little bit. And it's almost some days it becomes a chore for me to go on my bike. I want to get that back and I'm starting to get that back. You don't know, I haven't really got an end goal for it really. I would like to I'd always have to go to work 9 to 5. I couldn't like employ 4 people and sit back doing nothing.
And you want it ran the way it's your own thing, it's your baby, you want to keep exactly.
And that drives you and that keeps you going every day. And Joe and my mum, they do a mint job. Like I'm probably, there's no bullshit from Joe and my mum, never. I'm probably the worst, like not emotionally, but like I go through flights of like, especially if it's quiet or it's busy and I get stressed out a bit. And of course it takes you got passion for it and you want it to do well. But there's not really, I haven't really thought about what. I'd like to think I could retire when I'm like 50. And then just do whatever the fuck I want. And like my grandma was 90 a few weeks ago, and I'd be like, grandma, if I make it to 60, I'm doing good. After that, I don't give a fuck. Like
that's my
work with 50, have 10 years and fucking do what you want, and then
the
like
weight cuts and knocking myself out and fights and fucking injuries and this, mate. That's it. There's so much fucking took off my life from that. It's like as long as everyone, the kids and shit like that's all right, then I'm happy, you know, because I've lived I've done some stupid shit, you know what I mean, and stupid fucking experiences, but it's mint and it's part of it, you know.
Of course,
being a wild character, as you say, you know, you say you're 100 miles an hour and just.
I guess like we're a nightmare. Like a nightmare to be around. It's good. Like it's mad because none of my family's like that. None of them are risk takers.
Same as mine. Not one person in my family's ever had a fight.
Nah.
You know what I mean?
Nah. Like none. That's the thing. Like I would watch some friends going to fight, like Total Combat and stuff like that, and I'd watch them. I'd train them. I'd be like, this kid's hard as fuck. Like he's mint. Go to a fight. And his mind wasn't there. And I'd be like, that's not the kid I was training with last week. He fucking tortured me. Where I think the racing has got me to that point where mentally prepared for high pressure.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought I would have enjoyed the fighting, but the side of it where it was just dropping out all the time, I couldn't, the inaccuracy of it, if you like. And
I feel like that's why I kind of got better at dealing with my stuff, you know, obviously fighting from such a young age, boxing early on and dealing with like pressure then and losses then, it kind of prepares you for later on. I feel like that's what's kind of helped me as well. Obviously, as you started racing young, you know what I mean? It kind of caters you for where you are later on, where you are now, you know what I mean? And you've got that kind of mindset of like, give it or take it. If you want to do it, you can do it. And if not, you don't have to, you know?
Like I said before about what you make and what you earn and how people look at you. And I'd go back tomorrow to making a couple of $100 a month. It make no difference. You've got to, there's that type of person or there's not. There's that type of person who gets 400 quid and spends it today. Or they're like, Reed, I've got this much time to spend it, or I don't need to spend it. It doesn't matter what them people are given, they'll make it work in their certain way. You'll live within your means. That's what I was taught from my grandma, my granddad, my family. We've always had a good family up close, but always a good teaching family as well. So like, I mean, when I first passed my driving test, my mum was like, well, your first car, wheel half whatever you earn, whatever you make.
Like an incentive.
So like I was washing cars, I was doing everything. I made 1,200 quid. They give us 1,200 quid. And it's always been that lesson. It's always been, we'll see your commitment to that point.
If you're going to graft, you're going to benefit from it.
And that kind of taught me from then on.
It's good.
And same with, like, when I started the shop with Jonathan, like, he taught me some real good shit of, like, I used to fucking get angry all the time, like, throw tools around and stuff. And it's like, you're not getting any further. Be diplomatic about everything. If you want to, like you were talking about getting angry with someone before, but then taking a step back and giving them an answer. You didn't really want to say, but the correct answer. If they get more frustrated or whatever, you don't give a fuck. If you've done the right thing, there's also a little bit of peace. Like,
it's that little, like, kind of win in your own mind, isn't it?
It's good. It's good. But it's good. It's the race, and I've been taught a lot. Same with you, with fighting stuff. It's been mint. It's been class. And the people we've met and stuff. And
it is good. It spirals on a loads of other stuff. And it's networking. You know, you meet people who day-to-day life you probably wouldn't have ever associated with, but you meet them
and how well you get on, and
how well you get on. It's mad, because you look at some of them and you're like, what? Like, outside of this, like, oh, they've never been met this person being cool because he's from a completely different walk of life. But then you end up clicking, and it's cool. Like, for anyone watching, like on YouTube and stuff like that, like, what would you say is a good thing for them to search about you, Scott, if they want to see races or the slice of pies, which like them, like for people watching, and I'll
there's different sort of, there's your helmet cam type of shit, follow cams, cams of tracks. They're good to give you an image of the speed, and it's better if someone is in front of the camera person. You can tell where they're going and stuff. Then you've got videos of races, clips. For a lot of years, there was a series called Earthed. That's videos about races. And then the new era of stuff, like online stuff, is Slice of British Pie. I'd done loads of films with a guy called Sam Oakes. He actually works for, what's the friggin' thing called where they watch all the birds and shit? Not David Attenborough, but it's the BBC's version of that.
Fucking hell.
Deer Watch or something, Autumn Watch or something like that.
The one you mean.
He works for them now. So, like, it started him videoing me on mountain bikes. We've done, like, this was a lot before, like, Instagram and stuff. So they've got over like 60, 70,000 views of videos and stuff, and that worked well towards us, and that enjoyed that. So there's a lot of them videos still on YouTube and stuff, and There's always stuff around.
Definitely, it's good for people obviously who know me, who tune into this to watch a view. You know, even if they're not interested in mountain biking or whatever, if you watch what you do on there and you look on YouTube and you watch the slice of pies and stuff like that, and you see what it's all about, it's fucking wild, and anyone can appreciate how skilled you have to be to do that. So for anyone watching, you should tune in, go on YouTube, type Scott Mears in and a slice of pie and check that out. And Scott's Instagram as well, Scotty Derg. Check Scott out on Instagram and keep up to date with what he's doing. And anyway, Scott will
nice one, mate. Cheers.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Definitely, mate. Thank you.
Nice one.